Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm Justice, and today marks the second part of my Behind the Horror series, where I cover films and break down the controversies that came with them coming out, or the real-life events that inspired said movie. And today, we're going to be covering The Hunt. If you haven't seen my last video, I covered My Valentine, underrated film that a lot of people don't talk about, in my opinion, that very much is inspired by the lawsuit and the events of the Mars, Argo, and Poppy case. So if you haven't seen that video yet, you should check that out. But anyways, let's talk about The Hunt. Now, The Hunt came out in 2020, and it is a political satire on American politics and the division between liberals and Republicans in our country. Upon the trailer's release, this movie was immediately met with controversy and pushback. The film follows 12 Republicans, or stated as in this film, deplorables, which, yes, is a loaded word, and the movie very much knows that, but 12 deplorables get kidnapped and put in the middle of nowhere, where they are hunted by elites, or the Democrats, one by one, in this twisted game. This all unraveled because of this twisted internet conspiracy theory that was saying that these Democrats were kidnapping these Republicans and taking them out to kill them for sport at this manor in the middle of nowhere in Vermont, which also leads to this stupid debate as well between the very much spoon in your mouth liberals in this film that it's not a manor, it's a house.
You called that a cottage? It was a mansion!
Upon the release of this trailer, though, it was immediately met with pushback, and I feel like most people watching this video can tell me exactly who they think that pushback came from. But conservatives were not happy about this movie, and I have heard people talk about how it was both sides. I don't think it was both sides. From everything that I looked into about this film, it was not that at all, in my opinion. If it was, then it was a small minority of liberals that had a problem with it, because overall, I didn't really see much. A lot of it was Trump going off on Twitter, or all these conservative news sites making articles about it and how it shouldn't be released. Even when I was trying to look up news clips for it, the only news station that I could find that released anything about this on air was Fox News, and all of their takes on it were super close-minded for a film at the end of the day no one had seen yet other than a trailer. So I don't understand what all the outrage was before the film even came out. It literally goes back to like one of the oldest sayings that you can think of. Don't judge a book by its cover. Don't judge a movie by its trailer. It's that simple. Now, I'm probably going to butcher the absolute hell out of these names, so forgive me. The writers Damon Lindelof and Nick Hughes, when they were creating this film, they were trying to very much be similar to the classic novel The Most Dangerous Game, which is also another story that essentially pioneered the genre of people hunting people in the first place. And they were very much going for a political satire that was essentially dressed up in this horror movie. They weren't trying to make the next Get Out by any means, because that was a conversation that was had with them at some point. They just wanted to make a fun movie that poked at both sides at the end of the day. Upon the release of the trailer and when people saw it, the only thing that a lot of parties were seeing, or as I said, the conservative party was seeing, was that it was Democrats hunting Republicans, and that it was using loaded terminology such as elites and deplorables, and they were taking it as that the Democrats were the good guys and that the Republicans were the bad guys in this scenario, when I feel like anyone seeing that trailer would be able to be like, I feel like in this situation, maybe it is the Republicans that are the good guys, but the fuck do I know, right? We even had our lovely president tweet about this movie when it came out, and verbatim, what his exact words in the tweet were: liberal Hollywood is racist at the highest level and with great anger and hate. They like to call themselves elite, but they are not elite. In fact, it is often the people that they so strongly oppose that are actually the elites. The movie coming out is made in order to inflame and cause chaos. They create their own violence and then try to blame others. They are the true racists and very bad for our country. The only thing that I have to say about this is, it's a good thing I'm wearing my Kesha shirt today because she has a quote that I'm going to clip in right about now for how I feel about this whiny, old, rich, white man complaining yet again about stuff that he really just doesn't know at the end of the day.
So I always think when you get a grown, rich, white, straight man crying, you're doing something really right. Do you disagree? I mean,
Lindelof even ended up coming out after this saying that he wished Trump would just watch the movie with an open mind and that he didn't even want to debate with him about any of this. And he even said that after these events that the movie was getting treated as if it was radioactive by many people when it was nowhere near as hard to touch as he thought it was. And I very much agree with that. I don't think this film firmly takes a side against one side or the other. I think it heavily critiques both sides in like a very fun way, in ways that I don't think people want to poke at as much or talk about the division, which gets talked about so much yet nothing ever gets done with it, to the point where it's overplayed in many ways. And I think this film came at such a time before the narrative was overplayed with it. Ultimately, it wasn't Trump's tweet that led to this film getting shelved for a while and its release date getting pushed back. There was another national tragedy at the time where a shooting happened and they ended up pushing the film back. And though it has been proven that movies aren't what caused violence, I do think it was really respectful on the filmmaker's part and the producer's part to not release this movie just because of the families. Like, I think that's very commendable for them. Following all these controversies, though, they very much leaned into all of it for their marketing campaign. And if you guys have seen my other videos, I've talked about it. I love a good marketing campaign for a horror movie. When they were coming out with this film, they re-released the poster with all of the negative reviews behind it, and they had the original release date crossed out, and then they placed the new release date on there. Even Jason Blum ended up coming out and saying that the film hadn't been cut in any way and that it was getting released the exact same way it was back when it was supposed to be originally released, which I also found to be fairly commendable as well. I think it just furthered to show that this film wasn't taking a stance against Republicans and that it wasn't standing for Democrats. It was very much trying to poke at both sides at the end of this. One thing I enjoy about this film too, especially since a lot of the political stuff that happened in this film is stuff that's still going on today. Yes, the film is still relatively new and it did come out like 5 years ago, but I do think that a lot of it still stands to show a lot of the thoughts that go on with people in our country from both sides, stuff that I think that people still get divided over and that it's poking fun at, just at how stupid all of it is and just how much of a problem it causes for everyone. And it's really unfortunate as well when you're looking at news lines nowadays and you're immediately seeing all these different articles popping up that are crazy, and it's hard to differentiate like what's a real article and what is an article from The Onion. In fact, all these articles I'm flashing on the screen right now are The Onion except for one. Can you guys guess which one? It is frustrating too that you have both sides trying to divide the country, and I very much think that this is something that this movie is trying to talk about, that you have all these political figures saying all these stupid things, riling up the masses, when at the end of the day, like, it would be really cool if we could find some common ground between each other. And that's not me saying that I am going to support racists by any means, or fucking homophobes. I mean, I'm a gay man. But at the end of the day, it's these political figures that continue to divide us from each other. That's something too that I want to make a comfortable place on my channel too, is that, like, yes, I lean more liberal. I'm going to very much voice my opinions when things go against my morals. And I think anyone else of any other party should do the same in a respectable way. And if you guys disagree with my opinions, that's completely okay. You don't have to believe in them. The only reason any of this is coming up is because at the end of the day, this is a very, very political movie. And two, it is that much more pressing, like I said, when you see all this crazy stuff constantly going on in the news. And I think a lot of people are confused and like scared right now and like don't know what's gonna happen in the future. And I think that's both sides in many ways. And I think that's something that we can all relate on. And it sucks seeing all this crappy stuff in the news. It really does. Now let's move on away from all of my little sappy BS speech and my fucking rant that I did, and let's talk about this movie. Now, as I stated earlier in the video, this film follows a group of people that wake up in the woods that start getting hunted by a group of rich Democrats. And I think that something that I really enjoy about this is with the 12 Republicans you have, each one's based off of a different stereotype, and each one has their own reason for why they're there. And I think that was fun that they leaned into those stereotypes and poked fun at that. You have this one that's at an anti-gay protest, and then you have another one who is a poacher, and then you have another guy who is this Republican conspiracy theory podcaster who is very much obviously an example of he who shall not be named, because I very much enjoy having this channel active and I want this video to get some views. And his name is not friendly to the algorithm, and for very, very good reason. That goes into one of my first critiques I have of this film, though, too, is I love that they have all these stereotypes for all these Republican characters, but I don't think you really get that for the liberal characters. You get a lot of fun poked at them too, but essentially all of these liberal characters are just these rich CEO type people, and I wish they would have leaned into more stereotypes for liberals. I think it would have been more fun to see. I think we could have poked a little bit more fun. As I stated, I'm a liberal, but like, none of us are always right, and there's plenty of stuff that gets done and messed up with the Liberal Party too, and I would love if they would have poked more fun at my side too. Like, I would have really enjoyed that. The beginning of this film is so much fun too. You have this passing of the torch between all the characters as they're waking up in this field and the hunting starts commencing. They start getting shot at, landmines are going off, and as I was saying about passing the baton, it very much tries to convince you that all these different people are the lead character of the film, only for them to inevitably end up dying only minutes later. And they do this 3 times, and damn, the first time I saw this movie, it was such a shock to me. When I saw all the trailers, they made it look like Emma Roberts was gonna be all over this movie. I think she had like 5 minutes of screen time in this film, if that even. And they even like play you at the beginning where you have her meeting up with this guy in the field, and it looks like the two of them are going to be love interests with each other, and then almost immediately she gets murked in front of everybody. I thought that was so funny. I think they played me really good and other people that were watching this as well. I think that they very much were trying to pull Drew Barrymore in this movie. It's after this passing of the torch that we eventually get the torch passed to our lead character, Crystal, who is played by Betty Giplin, and I haven't seen her in anything else before, but damn, I hope she blows up and she does more projects, because her comedic timing throughout this movie and all of her action scenes, like, she is so good.
Because I am like
and I really hope that she has a very, very strong career in her film, and she gets to lead more movies as well, because she very much has the acting chops for all that and very much carries this entire movie and makes me completely okay with the fact that all those randos died at the beginning. Oh, randos and Emma Roberts. Oops. You very quickly realize that Betty Giplin's character, Crystal, though, is this survivalist. Her main goal is just getting the hell out of Dodge and getting away from this messed up situation, doing anything that she needs to survive. And she is so good at manipulating things and kicking ass throughout this film. Even her first popping up on the screen. It's this hilarious scene at the grocery store that had me cackling the first time I saw this movie, where she goes to buy a pack of cigarettes and the gal tells her like, oh, you're in the lovely state of Arkansas. And she realizes when she gets the change back from her that that's not the price of cigarettes in Arkansas. And Crystal quickly does away with both this woman and her husband because she very much realized that they are one of the hunters and that they're in on this whole scheme, and drops this freaking hilarious one-liner on you.
Cigarettes in Arkansas only cost $6. You fucked up, bitch!
It's shortly after leaving this gas station and in this film as well, she ends up meeting up with two different of the Republicans that are trying to escape this whole situation. And the first one that she meets up with is Gary, who is the Republican podcaster that I was talking about earlier. And he starts telling her about how this is this whole theme that he's been researching about Manorgate, where they kidnap the Republicans to hunt them for sport, and it's in Vermont. And she's very quickly to correct him and be like, well, this ain't Vermont. And it is so hard for me to take his character seriously in any movie that I see him in, because anytime that I see Gary, I only ever see Randy from
Name is Earl.
You guys remember that stupid show?
Oh, you did it! You made it up the ramp! I thought for sure you were gonna...
Later on, she ends up meeting up with this other Republican as well, whose name is Dale, and I personally found Dale to be a very likable character, which I do enjoy when they throw those characters in films. It's not very often that I'm watching a movie and I see someone who is very conservative and I have empathy for them and like I side with them, because I don't think they're written that way more often than not, to where they're just a person. I think they did a really good job with him on that, because he felt like such a grandpa type to me. And an example of that I think was done very well in another film as well was in the new Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie. I know a lot of people talk mad smack on that movie, but the Republican character in that I found to be very, very likable in that movie as well. And I don't think that he is genuinely a bad person, which goes back to the conversation I was having earlier as well of we're all so divided on stuff, and at the end of the day, like, we're all just people, and sometimes like a difference of opinion doesn't always mean that you're a bad person. It does sometimes, but like not all the time. Like, that's what makes the world. I've talked about Betty Giplin, but another powerhouse that's in this film is Hilary Swank. She plays Athena in this film, and her and Betty Giplin just pinball off of each other so well. They're so funny, and they have this iconic fight scene at the end of the film that is so well choreographed. I've rewatched this movie a few different times, and that scene goes on for so long, but it is so hilarious and like so well done that like it's just fun to watch every single time you see this movie. I think it's one of the best choreographed fight scenes I've seen in a horror film, and I think they do a really good job with it while still keeping that campy edge to it. It's at this point in the film though where you have Crystal going to Athena's manor, or house, sorry.
Was not a...
And when there, Athena explains to her why they're doing what they're doing. So at the beginning of the movie, there was a text thread between her and her friends where they were joking about how our stupid president messed up and did some shitty stuff in office again, and how they were going to kidnap and hunt some deplorables at her manor or whatever. And those texts end up getting leaked and a whole conspiracy ends up getting created, even though that's not what was happening. It was just a joke. But when those texts come out, her and all of her friends, their CEOs, they get fired from their jobs because, real or not, it's bad publicity, and her bosses don't want anything to do with it. And her bosses essentially put her in a spot where she is forced to step down from her job. And this leads to her deciding that, you know what, like, if they thought it was real, we might as well make it real for them and get some payback on them for messing our lives up. She explains to Crystal why she's there, but then Crystal decides to throw out there in this very condescending way that she is Crystal May with a Y, and that there is a Crystal May in her area that spells her name with an E, and sometimes she gets her mail, and that it was an honest-to-God mistake. But it's at this point in the film that I think encompasses entirely what the plot of this movie is about, and the whole point of it. Crystal essentially tries to call Athena out and tell her that she's not going to believe in what's the truth and what's right, and Athena decides to throw in her face verbatim,
The only difference is I'm right.
I think that encompasses the whole concept behind this movie perfectly, about how everybody's so wrapped up in their own thoughts that they're so focused on how right they are that they're not willing to listen to anybody else's side. And then you have Crystal, who is a stand-in essentially for the American people, who is not really on either side and doesn't want to be in the middle of all of this BS. And I think a lot of us can relate to that. After their fight scene, though, you have both of them laying on the floor, and it looks like they're about to bleed out. And you have Crystal asking Athena why Athena's been calling her Snowball throughout the film. And she very condescendingly tells her, like, it's from Animal Farm. It's a book. Like, as if you read that. But then Crystal quickly corrects her and, like, tells her, like, you know, like, I've read Animal Farm. I know what it is. And, like, Snowball is an idealist who just wants to make the world a better place. If anybody is Snowball, it would be her. And she kind of sits there confused for a second, realizing that I don't think I know as much as I thought I had this entire time before she dies. And that's something that I kind of wish they would have pushed on more in this film, because Animal Farm is such a good satire of politics. And I listened to the audiobook for the first time a few months back, and I think that novel remains to be very, very prevalent and can be drawn comparison to stuff that's going on in our society today. And that's one thing that I find unfortunate about this movie, is the only reason that I think that a lot of it still stands the test of time for now is the fact that we still have Trump in office, and all of it has a lot to do with current politics, which I think is going to very much date this movie, versus Animal Farm is an allegory for all that stuff and a metaphor, and it's timeless in its own right because of that. So, like, this is my recommendation. Go read Animal Farm, and whatever you do, don't watch either movie. And I'm just gonna throw in a couple factoids about those, because why not? The Jim Henson one, very bad. And then the animated one that came out in the 50s, fun factoid about that, the ending, completely different than the novel. And for one reason, it came out in the early 2000s that the CIA completely produced that film and changed the ending of the story for the novel, which made sense to me, because when I was researching this video and I was looking more into Animal Farm stuff, the animation for that film is oddly good for what should have been a low budget movie back then, which surprised me. But the entire movie is just propaganda for anti-communism and goes against the ending of everything that Animal Farm means. So don't watch that propaganda. Garbage. The whole thing's on YouTube, but don't do it. Garbage. Read the book entirely. That's my recommendation in this video to you guys. Overall, though, this is a very fun movie, and I highly recommend it. I think it's very hilarious, and I think that there's a lot of attention to detail throughout this film, and they have these little things that you can notice upon rewatches. Even you have Athena walking around, and because she's a liberal, she doesn't wear red bottoms, she wears blue bottoms. And I think it's little artistic choices like that in the film that I think are very fun. By no means do I think it's a masterpiece, but it is a very enjoyable and entertaining watch, and if you guys haven't seen it, you should check it out. On that note too, I don't think this film lived up to its controversy at all. I think that it was overhyped and blown out of proportion for a relatively tame movie that, like I said, it was equally poking fun at both sides. And personally, like, I think it would have been cool if they would have poked a little bit more fun at liberals as well, but they did play the liberals as rich, entitled assholes throughout this movie. Like, no side was made to look good in this at all, except the outlier who was caught in the middle of it. And that's the message of this movie, I think. You guys should tell me what you think of this movie, though, if you've seen The Hunt. And if you liked it, or what your takes are on it, or if you want to debate me down in the comments below, I would love to hear your guys' feedback. If you have other ideas for films for me to cover in this new series that I'm doing, let me know as well in the comments. Like, I'm here for any and all recommendations. And if you're new to the channel, hi, thanks for watching, and I hope that you come back for more. And if you want to come back for more, it's as simple as clicking that subscribe button right down below. I would love to have you here. I cover anything and everything horror on this channel, and that about wraps everything up. This has been Justice, and I hope to see you guys on the next one. Take care.